Waking up. Let's do it. Whew. Yeah, it's rolling. Oh. Pause on the game. You're not recording. All right, there you are. It just started. That's super weird.
Okay.
All right. We're live.
So, Star Wars has had its up and So Star Wars has had its up. So Star Wars has had its ups and downs for the past decade or so. There's things we all liked about the most recent trilogy, but I think there's more that we might not have liked about the most recent trilogy. One of those things I think is poor planning, right? They just threw a freaking movie out there, called it a day. Here we go. Switching directors, all this stuff. So it had us thinking, what if that trilogy never happened? And this Ahsoka series and the Mandoverse in general is what built up to the next Star Wars trilogy to follow up the prequels. And the villain would obviously be Thrawn. It would be well planned, and David Filoni would be directing this trilogy. So Andy, our guest today, I wanna ask you what you think about this. If we were just erase the last trilogy, and here we are in Ahsoka, as we know the movie's coming out, we know that's going to be the climax of the Mandoverse. But what if that was the next Star Wars trilogy? Do you think that would have worked out better?
That does sound pretty sick, to be fair. I think building up a trilogy around these characters not long after the end of Episode 6 and it being about the potential return of the Empire would have been a lot better than what we got, to be fair. As you said, very little planning. It didn't really work out. They jumped around too much. It wasn't particularly coherent. But yeah, I think a sequel trilogy based around Thrawn would have been pretty sick.
Yeah. And just to at least have something planned and not just thrown out there like a movie. I think that would be so epic, and it would follow the Heir to the Empire, because that's kind of what we're moving towards. We're redoing Heir to the Empire in a way. By the way, did you read Heir to the Empire, Andy?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I've read both of the Thrawn trilogies, the Legends and the new one.
Okay,
Nice.
so I haven't read. I haven't read the sequel to Heir to the Empire. I've read Thrawn, the canon Thrawn, and then Alliances, and I'm halfway through Treason right now. Gotta say, it started off incredible, but we've been going on a side mission for about 150 pages. That just pulls me out of it. So it's just okay. But man, could you imagine just a new trilogy, well planned? Thrawn is the villain. Lub, what do you think about it?
I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think that
Sorry.
Star Wars is delicate, and maybe Disney needed to learn a lesson first. And maybe them, failing in a way and, dividing the fan base has made them realize, okay, let's do this right now. Let's start over fresh. Not start over fresh, but do it right. Do it the right way. Build up these characters, and then give a trilogy that all the fans want to see after that. So I'm going to say, yeah, they learned their lesson, so we're going to get something even better now, because 1 year of Disney having Star Wars, they couldn't have pulled something off like this.
Take a step back to take a couple steps forward, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Dave, I think it's across the board. Actually, I shouldn't say that. You just played devil's advocate. So, Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that would be horrible, and I would know. Yeah, I think I mean, I've been hearing rumors of people online saying that they're going to still do that, and they're going to make the sequels not canon anymore. It's like, okay, they're not going to. Disney's not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's a great dream, but they're not going to do that. But yeah, I mean, I just obviously agree. Despite all the directorial issues they had with the sequels, I think another weakness it had to it was they jumped ahead 30 years right back into the same situation we just got out of with the original trilogy, right back to the Empire again reigning, essentially, with the rebellion built up and the resistance. Like, we literally just, why not go at a different part of that instead of starting at the exact same spot of this cycle that keeps happening that Balin actually mentions in this episode we're about to cover? It's a cycle that keeps happening. Going with this Thrawn thing here, it would have been a different phase of this takeover where the Empire is still remnants. They're not in control anymore. And it'd be a fresh take on a trilogy of Star Wars that I think they really needed to do with the sequel trilogy. So yeah, this would have been an awesome way to do that.
Okay. And one more question, just yes or no. Do you think it was appropriate for The Force Awakens to do the exact same plot of A New Hope? Because I actually thought that was necessary to reintroduce Star Wars back to the fans. Say, hey, Star Wars is back to the basics. The prequels were divisive. So yeah, they might have done A New Hope again, but it was in a modern day, and I thought it was done really well. I personally love The Force Awakens still. It's really the only one out of that trilogy that I like, but I like it a lot. So do you think that was okay to do, or should they should have done something more unique? Andy,
Yeah,
I'll
I
throw
like
it to
what
you.
Dave said. Oh, sorry.
I think for the new era of Star Wars fans, yes, but for the original fans, no. It's hard to balance out because you've got to hit both, obviously, factions of fans. So I think for the original fans who have been through Star Wars for years, they needed something different, or I personally felt like that anyway. But to bring in that new generation of Star Wars fans, it was a good move.
Yeah. Cool. All right, that's cold open. And that's usually when our intro music hits. And I'll jump into the intro. Hello and welcome back to Why So Sidious a Nerd podcast, where we travel from a galaxy far, far away all the way through Gotham and to our last stop today, planet Peridia. Today we have the pleasure of hosting a special guest, Andy from the Galactic Core podcast. Now you guys have to go check this guy out. It's all the good nerd talk, mostly Star Wars. I listen to this dude when I drive to work most of the time. He's covered all the Ahsoka episodes. Your last guest actually stood out because their podcast name is From Krypton to Alderaan, which is kind of like something that we discussed maybe making. We kind of throw it into an intro, right? We just went from Gotham to Planet Peridia. They're going from Krypton to Alderaan. Always a lot of fun. It's super unique. You always have a new person on, so you're always going to have a different flavor for your episodes, and very insightful, good listening. So thank you for joining us, Andy. We're excited. Today we're talking about episode 6 of Ahsoka. Before we get into that, programming reminders. Check out all of our Weekend Geeks for any news, any nerd news you need to catch up on in the last couple months. Check out any comic reviews. We got Flashpoint, Josh Whedon's Astonishing X-Men. We got the Hickman Avengers, everything up to Infinity, and we're going to keep going until we get to Secret Wars. We have covered each Ahsoka episode, and we got other stuff. Top 5 Star Wars novels. Just scroll down. We got over 100 episodes. Check out some of our content. And so let's jump into it. Here's a little summary. What happened in episode 6. It starts with Hu Yang and Ahsoka discussing Sabine's stupid decisions as they're traveling towards Sabine on Peridia. And that's actually the last we see of Ahsoka in her show. But then we get to Sabine and the bad guys arriving at Peridia to meet 3 Night Sisters. This is the first live action Night Sisters we've had on screen, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's awesome. That's always fun. And then, Shin and Balin, loved watching them discuss the past. Ray Stevenson's just showing how good of an actor he is. Just RIP. What a bummer. Wish he could stick around, but so well done. He even talks about Thrawn evading a power greater than his own. So I'm going to ask you guys about that later. But I love the mystery there. And then Thrawn's Star Destroyer, the Chimera. If I am mistaken, is it the Chimera?
Or Chimera.
Okay.
That's the one.
Woo, that had your boy yelling, freaking out all the kids in the house. I mean, the chilling score, that haunting. Oh, and by the way, the score, throughout has been incredible. But Thrawn is here. Lars Mikkelsen is just killing the role. No one is safe. except the audience here at home, who is perfectly willing to sacrifice the safety of our heroes to watch Thrawn in action, right? Thank you, Filoni. And Sabine goes on her way to go find Ezra. Gets into a fight with some locals, and then the Ninja Turtles help her find Ezra. Thrawn finds out Ahsoka might still be alive, so he's going to start taking action against that. And that would be the end of the episode. Oh man, this is my favorite episode so far. Even though we had Anakin in the last one, I mean, that's super nostalgic. I love it. But this one really hits home. The mood, the tone, progressing through the story. Even Sabine, who I wasn't a huge fan of before this, I liked her scenes a lot. I loved all her interactions with Thrawn. Her fight scene was actually really cool. I loved it. She's an idiot, but I do enjoy her screen time more in this episode. And start with you, Andy. Overall thoughts on episode 6?
Yeah, I absolutely love this episode. Coming off the back of last week's one, I was a little bit worried about whether we could maintain the sort of high that we had and whether it would continue to be a really high quality. I was a bit worried it might go down, but when you're introducing Thrawn, it was always going to be a mega good episode, I think. And the fact that we get Lars Mikkelsen doing it, it's all about the voice for me when it comes to Thrawn, because we had the voice in Rebels and now that voice translates over, and every time it spoke it did literally just stand the hairs up on the back of my neck, and it just felt chilling. And it was all so well done with the introduction of the Chimera ship coming in, and you see the previous damage from 10 years before that were done by the Purrgil when they took the ship away and all refixed up, and the Night Troopers, the Night Sisters, everything about this episode, I think, on the Thrawn side of it and the Night Sister side was absolutely epic. I really loved it. And there's so much lore to dive into with those as well, from the Great Mothers and their names as well, which came from a bit of actual Earth history. And so, yeah, I was really excited about this episode. I've watched it probably more than I've watched any other episode from this series so far.
Me too. Dave, overall thoughts?
Yeah, no, the whole Thrawn aspect of it. I think I just started watching it again tonight. So yeah, I think I hit 3. It's not my favorite. I'm still going with the Anakin episode. That's still the best for me for sure. But this was an incredible follow-up. Every aspect of the Thrawn return was perfect. They just killed it. And when they announced that they were casting Lars Mikkelsen, when they first did, I was slightly disappointed because I didn't know how he'd look, and I had other hopes in mind. You know, I wanted Michael Fassbender, maybe Benedict Cumberbatch. We talked about a little bit, which I started kind of falling away from that towards the end there. But still, I had hopes in mind, and it didn't hit it. But I now 100% think they made the correct decision, because exactly what you said, Andy, that voice, when you hear it, it just triggers that memory of Rebels, of Thrawn's entrance into that. And he looks pretty solid, too. He honestly does. The eyes, everything looks pretty good for me. He looks a little old, but he is a little older than, we knew him from before. So It kind of checks out anyway. So I just think they nailed the casting. I did not enjoy pretty much any of the Sabine stuff. I've got some complaints about that stuff, and I'm liking her just less. I just don't like her. So I haven't really enjoyed any aspect of her in that episode. But other than that, it didn't matter because the Thrawn stuff was so great that it was, second favorite episode.
Did you like
on my watch? Sorry.
Did you like Sabine in Rebels?
Yeah, I thought she was a dope character. Actually,
okay.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I was not happy about the casting when I heard about it. Well, not happy. I was just like, but it works so good. It's crazy how he has a little smirk on his face, like he's smiling when he's telling people exactly what they don't want to hear. And he's terrifying. Yeah. Love, overall thoughts?
Yeah, you guys pretty much summed it up. It's probably my second favorite episode of the season. The Thrawn casting was perfect. Like Dave said, he's like in his 60s by now, so I get it. A little out of shape, but hey,
I got a belly.
He's been hanging out. He's been hanging out by his own for a while. It's all right. But I got a hot take. So we were talking about Balin a lot this season, and I love every scene he's in. And I think he's on the Stellan Skarsgård level of Star Wars characters. I think he's my favorite series created character over Mando and Grogu.
Over Mando already. Wow.
just because of like how wise, and every scene he's in, you want to like rewind it and watch what he says over, listen to what he says over again, just so you can get every word, because there's always like more than one meaning, or he's talking about the past with the Jedi, and I just love it all.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I would take Balin over Mando because Mando's a little one-dimensional for me. He's a really cool one-dimensional. Balin is different, though. I can't tell if he's
deep.
He's deep. And he acts it so well. And you don't know. He's obviously a bad guy, but his intentions seem pure. He seems like he kind of wants the best for the galaxy. I don't know. And he just has that presence. Got a real nice beard, and that red lightsaber matches. Yeah, I mean, he has like almost the presence of Darth Vader, minus that force of nature thing, but replace that with kind of a calm, wise thing going on. So yeah, I would take Balin.
Well, he's got the Daenerys Targaryen deal going there too. She wanted to break the wheel. He wants to break the cycle of the galaxy going on here. So he's got that aspect behind him too. He's amazing for sure.
Even
I would have to
Shin.
think about that, but
even Shin.
I think Shin's a little overhyped, but she's cool. I
didn't like her much. Didn't like her much until this episode. She shined for me, but every time they spoke, they had a couple really solid conversations. Talking about history is inevitable, and Shin's, isn't it our turn now? Won't our alliance with Thrawn bring us into power? And then they talk about the power that Thrawn might be evading. Dude. So, Andy, what do you think this power is that Thrawn's scared of?
That's a really hard one to put your finger on, because it could be anything, to be fair. They're in another galaxy. It doesn't necessarily have to be something we're familiar with. I've seen a couple of theories thrown out there which could work out, whether it's something like the Yusheng Bong from Legends, potentially somewhere on that planet. I'm not sure whether they in the original Night Sisters, the Dathomiri, would have necessarily shared a planet, but it would make sense that even if something they're scared of, I saw one really cool theory that it's potentially something like Bendu from Rebels, who obviously predicted Thrawn's downfall. So it's going to be really interesting to see what it is. But I would love to see something like Bendu, because this is essentially Rebels season 5 as it is anyway. So to tie in something like that Thrawn thought he brought down, or he's come across him somewhere on this planet, and he realizes that, oh crap, this is the guy that predicted my downfall. I want to get away from him because he's a bit too powerful, a bit too mysterious. We need to be away from him as it is.
Now, didn't remind me of Bendu's fate, because I'm not as well versed on the Rebels series, but
so he basically got pissed off with Kanan Jarrus calling him a coward because he wouldn't take sides when Thrawn was attacking their base. And so he just starts obliterating both sides. And then Thrawn and his troopers shoot him down out of the sky. But when Thrawn goes to shoot him on the head for that sort of execute shot, he just disappears into the Force, and he's heard laughing as he just melts away and disappears into nothing. So never confirmed to be dead or completely gone. So he can still be out there.
Bendu's out there.
And I've heard the name Immortus. Does that ring any bells for a great power?
I think that was another name given to the father, wasn't it? In terms of these overall Mortis gods and the type of power that they have.
And could that be the power that Thrawn fears?
Potentially. I mean, it's hard to know with the Mortis gods from the Clone Wars trilogy, because technically they were all killed, but their embodiment could live on, and they could re-inhabit,
Ahsoka?
new types. Well, yeah, Ahsoka, obviously the living embodiment of the light side. The theory is obviously that Anakin last week could have been the son. I mean, Anakin was supposed to take the place of the father, so I don't necessarily see it being the same characters. It could be new embodiments or different ones of them, because I'm sure there's more of them out there, especially if we're in a new galaxy.
Okay. Dave, you got any theories?
Well, I'm just, so, Balin says it's calling out to him. He says, can you hear it? It's calling out, he keeps saying all this stuff, and he's saying, maybe Thrawn's evading a greater power. And we learn that Yang talks about it, how this galaxy, or no, Balin says it. He says, we talked about this galaxy in the Jedi Temple. It was like a myth of an ancient history that used to live here and exist here and is now, I'm imagining, so it's the homeworld of the Dathomir witches, but now they're in the Star Wars galaxy we're aware of. So did people flee this galaxy because of this dark power that's here? I'm wondering if maybe we're going to get one of the horror aspects of Star Wars that we've gotten in Legends. Like, I don't think we're getting Abeloth, but that's a pretty insane thing in Star Wars. Pretty much just horror, terrifying entity of the Force. But there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, we talked about the Yuzhan Vong a little bit too. So I'm wondering what it is, but I'm also wondering if it's the cause of Thrawn's troopers, which I'm sure we'll get into more. But he says they had a lot of casualties in their exile. So is there something out there picking them off? You know, what is it? I don't know. But the fact that Balin hears its calling, I'm stumped. I'm just super intrigued about it.
Yeah, I love the mystery because that's one of the best part of any storytelling is the mystery, not knowing what the hell people are talking about, what this threat is. Lub, you got anything?
Well, did you guys pick up on that the ring around the planet is like Purgle bones?
Yes. Well, they said they come to die here.
Yeah.
Which kills my theory where I was thinking, well, they can probably get off here even if Thrawn and them dip. They'll just ride the Purgles back home. But apparently all those Purgles Ahsoka's riding are coming to die here. They say it's the end of their pathway. Like the ring of this planet that we see is made up of Purgle skeletons. Yeah, it's pretty dark.
So let's do one more Balin conversation, because what does he possibly mean by bringing the cycle to an end? What could he possibly do to bring this cycle to an end? He doesn't want to be the Emperor. He doesn't want to kill Thrawn. We don't know that yet. He doesn't want to kill the Emperor, how could he bring this cycle to an end?
He wants to break the wheel like Danny.
Right, but that seems very ambitious from what we've seen from him so far.
Right.
I could see some ambition in his eyes and all that, but it doesn't seem like he wants to climb to the top and crush the wheel in that way. So I can't imagine what he means.
Yeah, well, when Shin says, we'll finally have the power to rule, like the power we've been looking for, he says that power is fleeting. Like, he's like, no, who cares about that? That doesn't mean anything. So, yeah, I don't know if he plans on becoming a god of Mortis. Is he going to be the sun? That's a pretty wild-ass theory, but I don't know. I really don't know what he means by that.
And it begs the question, did they have more plans for Ray Stevenson, moving forward?
God, you hate to think about that, don't you?
Yeah.
It just sucks.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe because he talks about how the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the Empire, it repeats over and over again. And he's talked multiple times about how the Jedi were, he does miss the order, but they were weak and he didn't like their weakness and how they stopped relying on the Force for their decisions. So I think he wants to create this new race of Force users somewhere in between a Jedi and a Sith, and kind of start over fresh with this new way of Jedi that are powerful but not full on Sith. Because I think him and Thrawn are gonna go. Because Thrawn, he just thinks of him as a chess piece. He doesn't care about him at all.
Mm-hmm.
He did say to Shin that he trained her to be something more. He said, "I didn't train you to be a Jedi. I trained you to be something more." So
it's almost like he wants to end the extremism of the left and the right and find that middle ground where everyone kind of can collaborate and everyone can kind of be happy, because in a world that's divided so strictly left and right, it's never gonna work out.
That's a villain I can root for.
You're not talking about anything outside of the Star Wars universe.
No, God, no. He's like Dooku, though. I think that's why people are really drawn to him too. He's got a lot of Dooku-esque aspects to him, but yeah, he really makes it easy to be like, I kind of like the cut of this guy's gym. I don't know where he's going. I don't know. He could be a horrible person, but I kind of ride with him right now.
He could be the ultimate Star Wars hero for all we know. Okay, let's get back to Thrawn. David, you mentioned bringing in the horror aspects of some Legends stuff. Have you guys heard of the Death Trooper book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's about, right, I'll just say it for the audience. From what I understand, Palpatine, he tried to reanimate a huge army of troopers, kind of turned them into zombies, essentially. And I think the book is about somebody finding a floating Star Destroyer in space, docking the ship, and it's just a horror story of zombie troopers. That sounds incredible. So do you think those stormtroopers are like an undead army? Andy, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to be spot on the nose. Whether it's a bit like the undead ones that we saw in Clone Wars when Grievous came to Dathomir and decimated them, or whether there's some kind of reanimated. They laid the groundwork with Marok, the Inquisitor, didn't they? So I think maybe that was a test to see if he would work in their universe and just see how he gets along. Because the voices between Enoch and Marok are almost indistinguishable in terms of how they sound. So yeah, they're definitely some kind of undead, zombie-ish, Night Sister magic troopers for sure. Because, like Thrawn said, we've had a lot of casualties since we've been here. You know, who was killed on the ship when the Purrgil took them away, and all those kind of things put together. And you've got to maintain your troopers somehow. Why not reanimate them? Make them zombie-ish, make them a bit more feral, make them a bit more unbeatable.
That would be freaking awesome. Love, you agree?
Yeah, and I feel kind of bad because remember that like rumor / leak I read on Week and Geek like 6 months ago?
Oh, now I do, you dirty rat.
Dude, it was like remember
I didn't until you just said that.
Remember how crazy it seemed though, and we were like, "Bro, this is so wild. This can't be true." Undreads, like
oh
what
my
the?
God. I'm glad I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about the fact that in Mandalorian season 3, remind me of the villain, Gus
Fring, yeah. No,
Moff Gideon.
Yeah, all the clones of him. Do you think that could be related or no? Little stretch, huh?
Different galaxy.
Yeah, it's going to be a different thing.
Fair enough.
But they're definitely undead. Like, they got those red wrappings, too. All of them have these red wrappings around them, which is consistent with Night Sister stuff. You see it in Fallen Order. They have these red clothing, this fabric tied around them, and the Night Brothers. It's very consistent with the Dathomiri stuff. But I don't think Enoch had a red wrap anywhere on him. So I had a mini theory for Enoch that he was maybe one of the only, maybe he's a Night Brother, but maybe he's one of the only ones who isn't undead, and that's why he's the right-hand man of Thrawn. That Thrawn introduces him to everybody. Like, he says, this is Enoch. He's going to take care of this and that. Like, he's his main guy, so I'm thinking maybe he's one of the only ones that isn't zombie, or an undead, but super interesting character already. He's got that Roman kind of Japanese too. They both have similar masks that look like that, but that cool, unique look. And all the gold stuff too, which again, this whole show continuously referencing Japanese culture, but all the gold, even the Chimera had the gold plated stuff where all the repairs were needed. They're repairing everything with gold plated stuff, and it's I wrote it down somewhere. It's called kintsugi, I believe. It's the art of repairing stuff, cracks, whatever, with gold plated powder and a bunch of stuff that was pretty big in Japanese culture. They did it with Kylo Ren's mask in Rise of Skywalker. That was like a nod to it. So we're getting more of that. It's super interesting though, but for barely getting anything from this Enoch character, I'm so intrigued. I'm hoping he's not just a puff of smoke like Merrick, but
maybe he's Eli Vanto.
Dude, that's what I thought. Hey. I totally thought that. Absolutely.
That would be sick. I don't know. Well, he could have been on the ship during Rebels. He was kind of assisting him. I don't.
Was he?
Well, he might have been sent to the Chiss by then, because he went to work for the Chiss Ascendancy for a while.
Right. I don't know. But yeah, he also came back and started working with Thrawn, and treason's so far, but everyone in the Empire hates him because he's like a traitor, technically.
Okay.
Elon,
I haven't read Treason yet.
Eli was like one of my first thoughts, but I think it's a little far-fetched. But can you imagine? That would be the coolest. I would love it if it was Eli. I would just love it. But it also seems a little too...
He's not a warrior.
Yeah, he seems too scary, too intimidating.
I was going to say, if you listen to the audiobook, he talks like this. He's got a southern accent when he talks. So it would not, like, for the character we got there, it would not match up in my head with that.
I
But
didn't know that.
it was pretty funny. Oh,
What I
it's
do
hilarious.
love is the mirroring they're doing between. I don't know how much you know about Enoch as the biblical character.
Yes.
But obviously, this was a guy that was essentially for a while like the right hand of God, and he's the only human that was ever allowed into heaven as a human, and he would walk with God and be his right hand man and give orders out to people on his behalf, and mirroring that with him being the right hand man of Thrawn. And giving him that name sort of signifies that he's going to have a big part to play maybe in these final couple of episodes.
Yes, that book is wild too. It got taken out of the main Bible, but it's about fallen angels and giants, and there's a lot of crazy stuff in the Book of Enoch. And there's so many biblical references in this series. I already talked about it last episode with Ahsoka's, baptism through the waters there and her rebirth, and there's been plenty of other things. Ezra too. Ezra is a biblical name as well and plays a part in the Bible. And we'll talk about it later, but he looked like a biblical character when he showed up there. But it makes me wonder if Filoni is intentionally doing this, like, as foreshadowing, like if it's going to match up with some of that biblical stuff, or if it's just kind of just little nods he's throwing out there. But there's a lot of them showing up in this season.
And hasn't Star Wars always kind of done that ever since Luke, as like the chosen one, just come and save us all kind of thing?
A little bit, but not like super direct reference.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I found it interesting that they were chanting his name. Thrawn doesn't seem like a big ego guy to me, so I don't know if this is like they're so culty that they just voluntarily start chanting his name, or it doesn't seem like Thrawn would do that under some weird military formality bullshit. It just doesn't seem like his character. So it was just interesting that they're all chanting Thrawn, Thrawn,
Yeah.
Thrawn.
But it was kind of dope, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, so when that happens, what are you guys doing at your house when you're watching this? When you first see Thrawn, did you just start freaking out like I did, or what?
Yeah.
Oh god, that was one of the coolest Star Wars moments for me.
I got some chills for sure watching him walk through there with the score rising and the chants and stuff. It was, again, perfectly executed for Thrawn's live action entrance.
Yeah. And he already knew General Balin. Well, he already knew he was a part of the Jedi Order. So, we know Thrawn does his studying. So it was cool, but it's also not a surprise.
But Balin was high up. He was a general like Anakin Skywalker.
Apparently.
So he was on the same level. Like, he was well known.
Probably why he hates Anakin so much.
I guess so. Was he? Did he switch sides by the time the Clone Wars started? We never saw him in Clone Wars.
No, I think it was Order 66. When he left.
That's
I think he was there till he said that he watched the temple burn and everything. So we got some more background on those. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. And then he meets Sabine. And then Dave, I'm going to let you rant because I am curious because I did like her. You didn't. We have opposite things going on there, and I couldn't stand her. Like in episode 1 with the super punk rock music and the bike and the hair and all that stuff. Slowly liked her more and more, even though she's kind of stupid. But I even texted Love this because I knew you didn't watch it yet, Dave, and I knew Love didn't. Wait, I don't even know if I didn't say it in any context, but I just sent you the quote, how that singular focus will reshape the galaxy, when he's talking about how her desire to just see Ezra. And I was like, that is such a cold line, how that singular focus will reshape the galaxy. Like, just because you wanted to see your friend, you're going to release me into the wild and everyone's screwed. Yeah. Like Peter Quill. Remember, his singular focus on Gamora kind of killed half the universe.
Yeah.
But I also liked her line. Thrawn said, you can go find her, but just make sure he's probably dead. And she was like, well, if you're alive, I'm sure Ezra's doing fine. So that was cool.
It was pretty good.
Okay.
It was good. I didn't dislike her in episode 1, actually. I liked her intro scene there, but I don't know. You promised me you let me see Ezra. Hey, you told me. It's like, oh my God, obviously he's a villain and you're throwing this little fit from your jail cell. I don't know. That was just Like, how naive are you just yelling from your jail cell at him like that's going to do anything? But I didn't think I don't know, her whole tracking down Ezra and her attitude and everything, the whole episode, the animal and everything else. It's just, I don't know. It didn't work for me. It was drawn out. Way too long of scenes of just her and the rat dog horse walking around back and forth. And it just slowed down the pace of the episode so much to me. But, and then again, her action scene I thought was weak as hell. I thought the choreography was super sloppy, like just
I thought it was pretty good,
predictable, like totally waiting for person to make the next move to throw the punch. And I don't know. Her action scenes have been taking me out of it. Her second fight with Shin was chill. But I don't know. Yeah, her whole aspect in this episode was just obnoxious to me. And again, I liked her in the first episode, and I liked her in Rebels, but I'm liking her less and less.
I liked her fight scene. I really liked seeing the green lightsaber because we never see anybody with a green lightsaber except Luke.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and the sound of the bolts off the Beskar was cool. Yeah. Cool little effect to it. That's not obviously Sabine, but just a part of the show.
Right.
It's actually our only action scene in that, and also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Should have just left it out.
I'll admit it was definitely too long, but I like the kind of relationship she had with that rat wolf horse thing you called it.
Yeah, we'll treat it better next time.
It was funny though how it kept following her and they were going back and forth. And then the little Ninja Turtles. That was like, it was super weird, but it was so George Lucas.
Yeah,
like that's something he would do. Like
Very
them just speaking another language that you don't understand at all. There's no subtitles. They're just talking in gibberish. You know, that's something he would
aspect. They were wearing clothing too, so they're sentient beings to some degree. They had vests on. And stuff.
Yeah, he had a little tuxedo look.
Shirt. Yeah. He's looking real stylish.
Andy, is Sabine working for you? Did you like her in Rebels, and do you like her now?
I did like her in Rebels. I think she was one of the more likable ones, and you could understand a lot of her reasoning, especially when you get to learn a bit more about her history and sort of towards the end of season 3 and season 4. In this series, she is my least favorite character so far.
Okay,
I started off with Hera as being my least because I didn't feel like... I mean, going from animated to live action is always a little bit difficult because you have the conceptions and the knowledge about previous characters. And nailing them in live action can be a bit difficult to do. Hera was at the start, the first few episodes, my least favorite because it didn't feel like Hera to me. But as this series has gone on, I'm like, I really don't like Sabine. she's a 30-year-old brat in this series. She hasn't learned anything. She doesn't seem like a Mandalorian either. In the way that she's doing things, in the way that she goes about things. She seems rusty with her weapons, which seems unusual for Mandalorian as well. To me, the only good thing about her in this episode was her interactions with the Howler. I thought that was hilarious, and that did give me a bit of light relief. Because the Howler I thought was going to be some ugly, vicious beast, and it turns out he's a little lapdog. So, yeah, I've really not enjoyed her in this series. She has been, by far my least favourite character. And I wouldn't really miss her if they left her on that planet.
Whoa, thank you.
Now, that leads me to my next question. Do you think she's going to die? So, Andy, in your episode 5 coverage, you and I think her name was Michelle, you guys were talking about how you cannot bring Thrawn in and have your heroes just walk away unscathed. There has to be at least a big death. There has to be a consequence because this is Thrawn. I think Sabine would be a perfect character to kill off.
I don't think
slowly and painfully. No.
Yeah,
in front of Ahsoka.
Hey, do it in front of Ezra for maximum impact. Yeah. I think I was more referring to like when we get the Dave Filoni Mandoverse film that Thrawn would have to kill some people in that to really signal his intention and his ability to the wider audience that maybe don't keep up with the TV series. But at the same point, I agree with you. I love a good death in any series. I think you need one every now and again to be impactful. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big sacrifice or martyr ending for the characters as well. Sometimes in war and stuff, people die without reason, especially heroes or good people. So killing off someone like Sabine would be a great motivation for someone like Ezra, I think, to team up with Ahsoka and take down Thrawn at the end. So I would not be adverse if that happened.
There's no way.
Yeah, but I
won't
think it could
happen,
happen.
yeah, but yeah.
I think it could happen before the movie, and I think it should. I think Thrawn should have a serious impact in this show. Someone's got to die.
Well,
Love, if pick a character who should die if they were to die in this series.
Well, if we're putting bets on it, I'm going Balin because I know it sucks.
Oh,
I love him,
that's-
but like, what? Anyone? Balin. He's,
It's sad.
I thought we were talking about heroes getting killed by Thrawn, though.
Yeah,
Heroes
that
getting killed
is.
by
Yeah.
Thrawn. Well, then I mean, it has to be Sabine, unless I mean Ezra. Maybe that could be kind of crazy.
Michael from Star Wars said Hera.
Yeah.
She's not even there.
We'll
That's
see.
true. Well,
I-
now that we know that, he predicted that earlier. Yeah.
Oh, word. Yeah.
Hera's expendable. I think Ezra's going to be a main character in the movie.
Yeah, he
I think.
is.
Okay, and I really do. I think Sabine's a perfect character to kill off. Hera would work. Where's Zeb?
I know.
Hanging out at the New Republic bar.
Too much
Just-
CGI right now.
Who, me?
Brought
Just
Anakin
hanging
back to
around.
life.
Just hanging around.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Who? Me?
But when Balin and Shin show up next episode, Ezra and Sabine only have one lightsaber between them. So she's gonna maybe, and I don't know how long Ezra's been without training. I feel like he's probably just been hanging out because honestly, he needs a haircut and a beard trim.
I think he looks pretty cool. I didn't like his haircut in Rebels.
It got better as the seasons went on.
They cut it short in season 3 when he was messing with the dark side. It looked a little better than his long hair, but
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how blue his eyes are. You can get lost in those things.
well, those contacts, good lord, they need to start doing CGI for the eyes because it's so blatantly like, oh my god, your
Yeah.
eyes are bright neon like blue.
But
Very
yeah, so they
blue.
weren't like that before. Okay.
The
like not as-
actor?
No, the
Oh, well, it was
Rebels.
animation. I don't know. He had blue eyes, I guess, but
yeah, right.
I thought he had purple eyes, honestly, but whatever. But okay, we're talking about him. He looks like Moses. He's dressed up exactly like Moses. Like he's literally about to part that sea that's right behind him and take his people across it as Balin and Shinati are rolling up. He's literally, if you type in, I think the movie's called The 10 Commandments. It's like a 1950s movie. Moses on the cover is literally almost thread for thread wearing the same exact thing Ezra was wearing in this episode. And when he popped up, I was like, why is he looks biblical as hell right there. And then I saw that on social media like yesterday, them matching up the thing. I was like, he does. He's dressed exactly like Moses.
Wow.
So I don't know, and it goes back to, I was asking, is Filoni throwing these biblical things in as foreshadowing for the stories, or is he just doing little nods? But Moses famously led his people around lost in the desert for 40 years. So is this a hint to Ezra and them getting stranded out in this galaxy as Ezra tries to lead them back home now that they've all came out here? Or am I thinking way too deep into it? And that's probably the case. But seeing him dressed like Moses definitely had me thinking.
And we're jumping all over the place, but let's go back to Thrawn discussing with Balin and Shin the fact that he told them to go kill Sabine and Ezra, which Shin wasn't okay with. She expressed that. She looked over to Balin. He seemed surprised. He seemed disappointed. It was subtle. I couldn't tell if that was him being disappointed about Thrawn kind of reneging on the deal, even though technically, like you said, they will have an opportunity to find Ezra. It had me thinking Balin can turn on Thrawn. So, Andy, you think that's possible? You think Balin could turn on Thrawn? It's not going to work. Thrawn's sticking around. Maybe that's why Balin dies. He turns on Thrawn. And anyway, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I never had any doubt really that at some point Balin does turn back. He seems to still have this love for the Jedi in the Jedi Order, whether it's romanticized in his head after all this time, or like he says before, there's so few Jedi left, he doesn't really feel the need to have to kill Ahsoka unless it's necessary. But yeah, I've always pegged him to being one that turns, and potentially if they've maybe slightly rewritten his story because of obviously the actor passing away, that this is how it would go down, that he sacrifices himself to save Ahsoka and Shin then joins Ahsoka in their journey to go up against Thrawn. It's definitely on the cards, isn't it? I don't really see him sticking with them, or the great power that he seeks. If that obviously does something to him, and he then just wants to go up against all of them, in terms of like Ahsoka, Ezra, and Thrawn, he's just like, I've had enough of all of you. I'm going to get rid of all you all. Yeah, but it's definitely on the cards, isn't it? I don't see it going down any other way for him. His interactions though with this Shin, I know we touched it earlier, but every time I'm captivated by him, every time he talks in this series, like Ray Stevenson has done such a good job. It's really a shame we're not going to get to see any more. Top 3 character for me in terms of all the new Star Wars characters coming. It's a hard one because I'm a big Mando fan, but Balin Skoll in this series captivates me every time he's on screen, every time he speaks, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next 2 episodes for him. Yeah, I think he's definitely going to turn. Why wouldn't you? I mean, Thrawn's a bit of a dick at the end of the day. He's using him as a pawn, so why wouldn't he?
Yeah, there was always that question about if Thrawn is actually a good guy. I always thought in the books it seems like he wants to do the right thing, and he thinks he could do the right thing if he has a lot of power high up in the Empire. They're doing the full villain thing here, which I think is good. It's solid.
It does feel a little different, though, than that first trilogy, or not the first trilogy, but the canon trilogy of Thrawn, where it's like, okay, he's not fully like bleeding for the Empire. He's actually trying to protect the Chiss while rising up the Empire ranks. And yeah, he definitely feels more of a villain at this point. But yeah, like you said, I don't mind it. I think good way to go at this point.
We need a
And
good
he
villain.
definitely, he changes throughout the years too, because in that Rebels finale, he starts like bombing the city and just killing innocent people and shit. So
yeah, he did do that.
Yeah, he changes. He's a villain, and I like it. I agree.
And even he tells Morgan that he doesn't care if they die. Like he'll leave them on the planet. He doesn't care about them at all. Balin, Shin, Ezra, Sabine, doesn't matter.
And he just wants to get the hell out of there. Like Thrawn is ready to get the hell out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And Morgan keeps calling them mercenaries, which is, I feel like, is degrading, first of all, and it's definitely like letting Thrawn know that they're worthless. But I feel like when he said that to Morgan, I don't know if she's totally agrees with that. I think she likes having Balin around on her side.
Probably.
Well, when Balin rescues her, she says, your reputation is well earned. So he's obviously well known amongst maybe that type of people, that he's good at, obviously, he's a former Jedi, and he's got a Jedi apprentice, so to speak. So, he's got abilities that a lot of others don't, and the ability to get people out of situations that maybe others couldn't. So I wouldn't understand why she wouldn't want to have him around, to be fair. So,
and what are the weaknesses of the Jedi? Real quick, because he says he misses the idea of the Jedi, but not the truth, their weakness. Real quick, I just want you guys to point out, Lub, what are some of the weaknesses of the Jedi? The Jedi way.
Well, he's talking about the Clone Wars era Jedi, obviously, and how, they, like we talked about last episode with Anakin. I mentioned, I think, how Anakin became a war general. And most of the Jedi became war generals, leading clone trooper armies to fight this war that, Palpatine was playing both sides. So he's obviously talking about then and how they lost their way, and he doesn't like the weakness of that. And now, they were turned into police officers.
Yeah, I saw the weakness as, I just think of Anakin, right? And their detachment from passion and attachments or whatever, just, I feel like yields emptiness, right? And if it's like the wrong person, that emptiness can have a terrible effect, as we saw. Like family and love are just part of our existence. The Jedi just go full monk, and there has to be a balance for the healthiest possible person. I feel like that's a weakness. They didn't give a shit about Anakin, his well-being. I don't remember anybody asking if he's okay. They just say, hey, you're leaving your mom, come do this Jedi thing. She ends up dying as a slave, and still I don't remember anyone asking if he was okay. As long as you're clocking in for your Jedi work shift, then you're good. Don't be blinded by passion, but there's a reason people are passionate about things. You shouldn't just shut it completely down. That's our soul reaching for things that we desire or whatever. You can't be blinded by your passion, but I just find that to be, it's like a cringy way of the Jedi almost to enforce that strict dogma. It's a little harsh. So that's what I pictured when I think of the weakness of the Jedi way.
I was thinking they were probably referring more to, especially of that era of Jedi, the arrogance, the complacency, and the apathy of the Jedi,
That's the word.
which came down to their downfall in the first place. So he's talking about the weakness of them. It was just their inaction against the dark side and falling to supporting and maintaining the greed of the senators of the Republic of that time.
Complacency. It's always going to be the best word for what was the downfall of the Jedi. There's complacency. Just
right. And
As
what
they were
does
getting
Yoda? Oh, sorry. And what does Yoda say to Anakin when he comes to him about the fear of losing? He's like,
stop being a little bitch.
yeah, he's like, exactly, basically. He says like, lose what you fear to lose, or you'll you'll go to the dark side.
there you go.
Suck it up, or you're gonna be a Sith. All right, dude.
Yeah.
Go back to bed.
Yeah. You know what I like about this is the adventure aspect. I think I mentioned it last time, but it's something we kind of miss out on. We get into all these fights and action, but this adventure, diving into the unknown, has been one of my favorite parts about this. Not only Planet Peridia, where Thrawn is, but then obviously the world between worlds. And it brings such a mysterious vibe where like threats, it's such uncharted territory where anything can kill you. And that really is Star Wars. And I really do feel like this show brought back a huge Star Wars thing that's been missing for a while, that we've seen hints of it here and there. But I love traveling to these new places and not knowing what the hell's going to happen.
Dude.
You don't miss Tatooine?
Yeah,
so
great
much.
point. It's a great
But
point.
what's happening in Mos Eisley? I don't care about
Yeah.
this stuff. What are we doing over there? No,
We got a sandy planet.
yeah, it's nice to see a different style of planet here. But no, the Dathomir witches, we didn't really get into it yet, but that was a cool little thing they threw in too. Yeah, like you said, it's this mysterious unknown that we haven't explored in live action. We got Mother Talzin and Clone Wars, but in these, the costume design of them was great. They totally look like Mother Talzin from Clone Wars in live action, and their whole mysterious vibe, whatever the hell those little golden balls are doing. But yeah, it's something new we haven't seen live action, and it's very mysterious. Thrawn respects them to a point where he's making deals. Obviously, he's surviving too, but there's this power to it, and they obviously used to amass a much bigger power than they have now in history and in the ancient Dathomir. It's just there's so much history we're getting from Star Wars here. So, like you said, it's just really cool adventuring into unknown areas.
Quick random trivia: who killed Mother Talzin?
Was either Mace Windu or Jar Jar Binks, wasn't it?
Dooku. Jar Jar? I thought it was Dooku.
I think it was Grievous.
I was thinking of the Clone Wars episode one in season 6, wasn't it?
I hope I'm not looking so stupid, but I could have sworn it was.
JD wins. Grievous slays Talzin in the end. Dooku is fighting them with Maul and Obi-Wan and some other stuff. Dooku.
It was in the Darth Maul comic.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that comic. Yeah, my mistake.
That comic. It was supposed to be a Clone Wars arc.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, but Grievous was the one who finished her off. Yep.
And the adventure, the shit we're not familiar with. I like the ship, that Halo ship. I think that's
So
a really
cool
thing to add into it. And then when they used it and all those other ships were crashing, that's a different episode. But it reminded me of just unfamiliar stuff. They're adding new, unique stuff to the show.
Well, we get a new hyperdrive visual because we're into a different type of hyperspace jump. And I kind of like it. It's like the Rambo-ish lightning kind of design to it. I enjoy it. It's a little close to the Rainbow Bridge with Thor, seeing those rainbow colors when they're transporting like that. But I thought it was cool. I love that massive ship they got, the Eye of Sion.
Right.
Yeah,
Something
the Eye of
new.
Sion. I mean, they're going to be using that surely to transport the Chimera back to their galaxy, aren't they? So
It's got a
giant
dock in
hyperspace
there.
ring. So
Yeah, it looks just like the docks from the prequels. Yeah.
Kenobi has it, yeah.
Yep.
Jedi Starfighter docks in. Pew!
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, that brings us to the end of the episode, I think, when they start talking about Ahsoka. I know, another Jedi's on their way. And Thrawn says, that's unwelcome news. I thought it was beyond you to underestimate Jedi. Well, she said, Balin assured me she was dead. And he says, death and deception are common themes for Jedi. And the Night Sisters also, what am I saying? But he says, now that's when he says, we got to regard this guy as flawed. So immediately it's like, he already said he's willing to let Balin and Shin die. Now he's regarding them as flawed. I don't think they're going to last long. Now that I'm talking about it, maybe they do kill them off pretty soon, because unless, I will say that there's an inevitable conflict coming with Balin and Thrawn. I think that's pretty easy. And we're going to consider Ahsoka alive until we're certain she's dead. And then he asks to know everything about her background, home planet, history. And then he asks the Dark Sisters for more of their dark magic. We're going to require more of the Dark Sister stuff, Dark Witches, whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's sketch. We don't even see Ahsoka in the show. She's on her way to this dude who knows he's coming. He's got an undead army of 1,000 troopers and a bunch of Night Sisters that are powering him up with dark magic. And she's in danger, man. She's coming right into the mouth of a shark.
Right.
Well, and what's in the catacombs? What are they loading up? They said it's going to take them 3 full days to load up everything from the catacombs there. So are those corpses they're going to reanimate into more night troopers? So. Or is he doing a favor for the witches? He's like, it's part of our deal. We'll load up the cargo from your catacombs and take it with us. What is that?
I think it's more Night Sisters.
More Night Sisters or Night Troopers? Sisters?
Night Sisters, yeah.
Okay.
Because they do look like caskets or like frozen pods or something like that. Because there's a really subtle shot. I think you have to watch it a couple of times to maybe pick it up, where there's one of the caskets or whatever it is goes across the screen for a couple of seconds, and it starts shaking as if there's like, from the Jedi Fallen Order game when they reanimate the corpses and they're like proper shaking. It was like that. It was still for a moment, and then it just shook for a moment, and then carried on going. So you could say it was just the thing being transported. But to me, picking up on those little things, it kind of gives it a night. These are frozen or maybe dead Night Sisters that they're taking to that galaxy to reanimate and bring back the Night Sisters in that galaxy.
Give me a Saz Ventress, please.
Oh, is she alive?
That would be sick.
No, she's dead, but they're going to bring her back to life.
Oh,
that's what they're dead Night Sisters.
That'd be pretty wild.
Because all the Night Sisters got killed. They're all dead,
slaughtered.
Yeah. So they have to be zombie Night Sisters.
Yeah,
but these are Night Sisters from this planet, I think, like from ancient times, because they're loading up catacombs from this planet that's in this far off galaxy. Shit. So I don't think it's gonna be Night Sisters we're aware of from the Star Wars galaxy. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
But it's it's super interesting.
But when Thrawn asked for the stats and info, he also asked for who her master is.
Yeah,
and
that's interesting.
But he knows Anakin from obviously the book.
Yeah,
and
but maybe
he knows,
doesn't know that's a Padawan.
But if he knew who General Balin Skull was, I feel like he would know.
That's fair.
But maybe once he gets the papers on it, he'll like remember. Maybe he forgot, but no, Thrawn doesn't.
Oh, that's right.
Thrawn doesn't forget anything. So
I don't think he'd forget Anakin, who is Vader. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Maybe he just wants to know, anyways.
Right. Anything else you guys want to talk about on this episode?
I wanted to talk about Hiang and Ahsoka before we left that intro scene, because me and Andy were talking about it. It doesn't say it in the episode though. Well, yeah, he says the thing, but we were talking about Hiang being 25,000 years old, and I thought he said it in the episode, and then I rewatched it, and he didn't.
He doesn't say that.
But he is 25,000 years old.
Damn.
So somebody must have mentioned something about him having that. But so 25,000 years old, by the way, is where we're going to for the Dawn of the Jedi. So we might be seeing him, but
yeah, it was a super interesting scene in terms of, obviously, he says, I've got, the stories of the galactic history in my databanks. It was interesting when Ahsoka says, well, part 1 is obviously the best. So maybe that's the story of the Dawn of the Jedi, that as Dave was saying, that Hu Yang might be around at that time and potentially be part of that film. I don't think he became like a droid for the Jedi until he said he'd been part of the Jedi for 1,000 generations. I don't think that's quite 25,000 years, but yeah, it's super interesting that he's got these stories there, and he could be around in that film. It's a really tantalizing possibility.
I have a $1 million idea for Star Wars. Give me the history of the Jedi, part 1, 2, and 3, narrated by Huyang.
Hey, part 1's the best. That was a little meta joke too. Part 1's
Yeah,
the
right.
best, obviously.
Yeah.
So good dropping that. That was pretty funny. But
Shit.
yeah, and a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So it's very interesting. And it makes me, if he's saying that, if he's telling Ahsoka that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, is he about to tell her a story about the galaxy they're going to now, which is actually a galaxy far, far away from where they are? Like maybe we'll actually hear what he's about to tell Ahsoka about where they go. I don't know. It's again stretch, but it's just interesting. He's that old. He has that many stories in his databank.
Yes. So instead of what we thought as the opening crawl speaking to the audience, because the Star Wars galaxy is so far from our galaxy, it's so far away, or was Huyang? Huyang has always been the one narrating that opening crawl ever since A New Hope.
Yeah.
Well, that actually ties in with my theory from last episode about the wills. That was George Lucas's plan. So it's the journal. It's the journal of the wills. So it was them telling the story of a galaxy far, far away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of their thing.
Interesting.
Although the Clone Wars episode where Yoda gets trained to obviously be around after death, they do say that he goes to the wellspring of life.
Oh yeah.
So whether the Force was born in the Star Wars galaxy or a different one, it then just threw that when they were talking about that in terms of could the power that Balin's after be, like you said, if it's something like the wills or something that was around that birthed the Force itself, that is that powerful that Balin thinks it could be used to reshape the galaxy for good.
Okay.
That's a trip. And sorry, I promise I won't get into Moses or anything like that, but just in regards to Ezra, the casting was great. It really worked for me. My wife was watching it and she was like, it's a terrible actor. And I was like, oh, really? I didn't notice it. And I was thinking, well, maybe because Ezra's kind of corny in Rebels that it just kind of carried over a little, but it worked for me. I don't know. As a Rebels fan, I thought the casting was great. I feel like he's going to be pissed though, right? Once Sabine tells him like, hey, that whole sacrifice you made? Well, I'm kind of freeing Thrawn just so I could see you, and we have no way of getting you home either.
Yeah.
But, are you glad you made that sacrifice?
We did not talk about that. She didn't say a word. Like, why aren't you telling him anything?
Can I just enjoy this moment? No, you can't. You're being hunted down right now. Like,
Yeah.
So that was really strange for me. She's doing a lot of stupid things, and that's so as a not super well versed on Rebels, seeing a lot of it. She's not that stupid in Rebels, right?
she's bold but not stupid. And again, this is like she's like 32 now, and she's still acting like a pouty teenager making terrible decisions left and right. It's just like, I don't know.
But we have to appreciate her though. Without her, there's no Thrawn. Therefore, she is the star of the show. She's the best character in the show.
You got me there.
I don't know what it is. Baby.
I did find Ezra's introduction a bit underwhelming though.
Yeah,
I don't know what I was expecting, but just her going to the little village of the Naughty, and then just turning around and he's just stood there, just like I was like, oh, I was expecting a bit more of a grander entrance, or I don't know, it just felt a bit underwhelming.
Yeah. It did.
That's
anticlimactic. You really do have to super watch Rebels to really appreciate the show. I think, kind of. I love it. I think the show's done really well. Yeah, I don't know if you have to, but it adds a lot if you really appreciated Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
And Ezra's just hiding 5 miles away from Thrawn.
He's right down the road.
You see the Chimera?
An hour.
You could see the Star Destroyer from there for sure.
Have to. Yeah. That thing's massive.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, there's Thrawn right there. We're good here for the night. We can camp here. Yeah, we'll move tomorrow. But
good.
yeah, we're good.
Grab your green hat. That doesn't even make sense. No way does that make
That
sense.
quote works for me every time.
Every time. Cool. Anything else?
I'll just say episode 5 and 6 have both been masterpieces in their own way. And I cannot wait for the future with Filoni. And Filoni meeting with Timothy Zahn definitely paid off. Like, they did a great job showing how cunning Thrawn is and how he's always one step ahead. Like, not just the actor, but, you know, the writing and how to, you know, the directing of the character. So they did a great job introducing Thrawn, which is very important.
With a single sentence, he becomes the most menacing
my
person
God.
in the galaxy. It's insane. And the fact that the actor can portray that is actually really impressive also. Let me ask you one more question, Andy. Give me a theory of what we're going to see. And now there's 8 episodes total here. Is that what we're doing?
2
8?
more.
Okay.
2 more.
What's going to happen before this series ends?
Oof. That's a rough one. Ezra and Sabine make it back sneak onto the Chimera. I think basically Ahsoka arrives. They all band together. They sneak onto the Chimera to go back with Thrawn to the Star Wars galaxy. There's some big confrontation between all of them where Balin jumps in the middle of them because he kind of like had enough of what Thrawn wants to do because he doesn't want to see the same pattern repeating. And it's going to get left on a cliffhanger, isn't it? Because we don't know if we're getting a season 2 before the Mandoverse Dave Filoni film. But it's still going to be left as an open thread where I think we might, maybe if we get another season of Mando before the Dave Filoni film, that Thrawn pops up on there because we had like the council of the Empire dudes in Mando season 3, and so he's going to have a little impact maybe with Moff Gideon gone in the next season of Mandalorian. Sort of setting things more up and bringing everything together is a joint story. But yeah, there's obviously going to be some big confrontation between all of them, you know, good versus evil. Balin jumps in the middle. Whether he gets sacrificed or not on that, obviously we don't know, but I think we are going to have it left on a point where we basically do see how vicious Thrawn is and how calculating he is. So they're going to leave it, I think, on a cliffhanger, but with us having no doubt that Thrawn is a complete badass.
Yeah. Lub?
I do like that theory because once we realize that the Purgles kill themselves, basically, or not kill themselves, it's the end of their lives. I was like, how are we going to get back to our galaxy now if we're not, you know, using the Eye of Sion? So I do like that theory that they sneak on, or at least Ezra and Sabine are able to sneak on the Chimera and get back that way. But at the same time, do you think Thrawn wants to just go back? You think he's... Because then if he goes back, then we still have, 20 years till the sequels happen, right?
Yeah.
So we have some time. Okay, so he can go back, I guess, and then we can maybe go back over to the other galaxy later or something to keep things clean. But yeah, because he's going to want to reassemble the Empire. That's probably his first mission. He needs to get his troops up, kind of like Rise of Skywalker, but, you know, better planned out. You know, get your army ready on this distant planet and then come back and take over. It's definitely we're definitely going to leave. The season will end with Thrawn being victorious in some way.
Dave, give me a theory and don't say anything about Noel.
I'm out. Pass. Honestly, I don't really know. Yeah, I think Thrawn will come out on top at the end of this. I think Ahsoka's going to end up defeating Balin and killing him. Oh, God, but that kind of contradicts my theory about Balin turning that me and Lub were talking about, because he was, at the start of all of this, I was thinking Balin might turn, he was thinking Shin might turn, but we both thought one of them might turn. But now I kind of think Ahsoka, I don't know, man. I'm going with Balin gets killed by Ahsoka. Screw it. I'm going with that.
Oh, nice.
And my theory is Enoch is not an undead. But past that point, I don't really know what else to theorize right now. I don't know what they're going to go back to in the new galaxy. I think they're going to get trapped here a little longer than they anticipate, though. Things are going to happen during these times while they're loading up the catacomb stuff, but I just don't know what, which I love.
Yeah. I really do think Sabine's going to die. I think she's got way too much screen time for an Ahsoka show, and I think she's expendable, and she's been so dumb this whole time that it'll kind of make audiences happy and sad at the same time. And it's just, you need, like you said, there has to be consequences. This is Thrawn, so Sabine's gone, man.
But it's not going to happen because Ahsoka in episode 5 already went through that whole, character rebirth. And now losing Sabine, it would, since she's already Ahsoka the White, she does, that would be something that happens before she went to the World Between Worlds. You know what I mean? Like after the World Between Worlds, it's something that maybe
I see what
wouldn't.
you're saying, but
You know what I mean? Like story wise,
like it would be something for her character arc to overcome the death of Sabine.
Yeah.
And think that now that she's already the White, she shouldn't have to go through that. But
yeah,
I think she could still die. Maybe she'll just handle it more maturely because she's already Ahsoka the White.
she just won't react to it at all.
That's life, baby. Circle of life.
She's too wise and calm. Cool.
That'll happen.
Andy, thank you so much, dude. I know it's a big sacrifice waking up early. It's a big pleasure to have you on. And we all look forward to seeing what's going on. David, Lub, thanks for joining us. So we'll just kind of sign off. We'll just call it.
You should say we're doing episode 7 with what's his face, right? Lance Cameron.
No, I'm not gonna do that. But I will say we're gonna do episode 7 with Lights, Camera, and Rant. So stay tuned for that. Check it out. We're kind of pulling a page out of Andy's, man. We're having some new person on every time, so that's a lot of fun, and it is a lot of fun. Andy, you're a great.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on, guys. I absolutely love you guys, and your podcast is amazing. I love the chemistry between you guys, so it's been a real pleasure to be on.
Baby.
We're losing it. It's getting late. We're fucking. Oh, I got a